First Contact and Silent Observation. The Galactic Council's observation chamber buzzed with whispers as Ambassador Sarah Chen took her first steps into the massive hall. The chamber's crystalline walls stretched hundreds of meters upward, housing representatives from over 1,000 species. Yet humanity's section consisted of just 3 seats in the furthest corner, marked with the distinctive Observer Species designation. Sarah straightened her dark blue diplomatic uniform, ignoring the dismissive glances from the more established species. At 42, she'd spent decades in diplomatic service on Earth, but nothing had prepared her for becoming humanity's first representative to the stars. The circumstances of their invitation still haunted her. 3 months ago, humanity had detected the aftermath of a massive space battle just beyond Jupiter's orbit. The debris field contained technology centuries beyond Earth's understanding, and the bodies of creatures that had only existed in humanity's wildest dreams. Before Earth's governments could even form a coherent response, the Galactic Council had made contact. Observer Chen, a melodious voice called out. A meridian approached, their crystalline form shifting colors with each movement. The council session will begin shortly. Please take your designated seat. Sarah nodded politely, suppressing her frustration at being addressed by her observer status rather than her ambassadorial title. She took her seat just as the chamber's central hologram flickered to life, displaying a star system she didn't recognize. The council speaker, a towering Arcturian with iridescent scales, raised all 4 arms for silence. We gather today to address the latest offensive by the Vespidian Dominion against the neutral worlds of the Carina sector. The hologram shifted, showing the destruction of an entire world. Sarah's hands gripped her armrests as she watched cities crumble under energy weapons that turned the very atmosphere into plasma. The death toll scrolled past, 8 billion lives extinguished in hours. The Council condemns this action. The speaker continued, and will issue a formal protest to the Dominion. A protest. The words escaped Sarah's lips before she could stop them. Several nearby representatives turned to stare at the presumptuous human who dared speak without recognition. But Sarah had spent the last 3 months watching this pattern repeat itself. The Vespidian Dominion would attack, the Council would protest, and nothing would change. A small light began blinking on her secure datapad. A message from Earth's hidden military command. Significante development incorruptible required. Sarah discreetly activated her neural implant's secure channel while maintaining an appearance of attention to the Council's proceedings. The message painted a disturbing picture. Earth's long-range sensors had detected similar weapon signatures approaching the edges of human space. The Dominion wasn't just attacking random neutral worlds. They were systematically expanding toward Earth. As the Council droned on about economic sanctions and diplomatic measures, Sarah accessed classified files about Earth's secret military buildup. Under the guise of civilian space development, humanity had been preparing for war since the moment they detected that first battle. Old Soviet bunkers had been converted into shipyards. Asteroid mines were actually producing warships. Every piece of alien technology found in that debris field had been studied, replicated, and improved upon. The council session ended with nothing accomplished as usual. Sarah remained in her seat, watching the representatives file out. A tall Vespidian diplomat passed by, its insectoid features unreadable, but somehow radiating satisfaction. Behind it walked several council members who, according to Earth's intelligence, had growing private accounts in unregistered banking systems. Sarah's neural implant pinged again. A message from Admiral Helena Torres. Project Thunderbolt at 90% completion. Awaiting diplomatic signal. Sarah stood, her decision made. Humanity had played the quiet observer long enough. They had watched, learned, and prepared. The Vespidian Dominion thought they were advancing toward a primitive species barely out of its gravity well. Instead, they were walking into a trap laid by a humanity that had spent every moment since first contact preparing for this exact scenario. She composed 2 messages, the first to Earth's government. Request permission to implement Protocol Omega. The second to Admiral Torres. Prepare for diplomatic shock and awe. Tomorrow, Sarah Chen would break every protocol of the Observer Species designation. She would stand in the center of the Galactic Council chamber and announce humanity's entry into the war. But unlike the Dominion's raw aggression or the Council's passive acceptance, humanity would show the galaxy a third path, one that combined Earth's martial history with their newest technologies, their brutal determination with their capacity for mercy. The galaxy thought humans were primitive observers. Tomorrow, they would learn that sometimes the most dangerous force isn't the one that strikes first, but the one that watches, learns, and chooses the perfect moment to reveal its true nature. Sarah smiled as she left the chamber, already composing her speech in her mind. The galaxy was about to learn why every human child knew the story of the Trojan horse, and why sometimes the most dangerous gift was the one that looked harmless until it was too late. Deep beneath the ice sheets of Antarctica, Admiral Helena Torres walked through a facility that officially didn't exist. The massive underground chamber hummed with activity as engineers and technicians worked on humanity's secret fleet. Overhead, through the transparent ceiling, she could see the bellies of warships suspended in massive construction cradles, vessels that combined stolen alien technology with humanity's most brutal innovations. Status report, she barked, approaching the Central Command Station where Dr. Marcus Wong, head of the Hybrid Technologies Division, awaited with his tablet. Project Thunderbolt is exceeding expectations, Marcus said, his excitement barely contained. The Vespidian shield technology we reversed engineered. We've modified it to do something they never considered. He pulled up a holographic display showing a simulation of their latest breakthrough. Helena watched as the simulation demonstrated their new weapon system. The Vespidians had designed their shields to be impenetrable walls of energy. Humanity had turned them into programmable fields that could be selectively permeable, allowing their ships to fire outward while maintaining protection. More importantly, they could be projected around enemy vessels, trapping them in bubbles of their own making. And the stealth systems? Helena asked, moving through the facility's corridors. Workers saluted as she passed, their uniforms bearing no insignia, their existence officially denied by every government on Earth. Better than we hoped. Marcus pulled up another simulation. We've combined the Arcturian cloaking technology with old Earth submarine acoustic dampening. Our ships don't just disappear from sensors. They vanish from every detection method known to the galaxy. They entered the facility's pride and joy, the Strategic Innovation Chamber. The massive spherical room was filled with holographic displays showing every piece of intelligence Earth had gathered about both sides of the galactic conflict. In the center, a real-time map tracked the movements of both Vespidian and Arcturian fleets. They still think we're primitive, Helena mused, watching the Vespidian fleet's steady advance toward human space. All our technology requests through official channels have been for agricultural and medical purposes. Every time they deny us access to advanced technology, they push us to innovate something better. Her neural implant chimed. A priority message from Ambassador Chen. Council session tomorrow. Bringing thunder. Helena smiled grimly. Time to wake the fleet. Begin Protocol Omega. Throughout the facility, lights shifted to combat status. In hidden bases across the solar system, ships that had been waiting in darkness hummed to life. Weapons that combined the best of human ingenuity with stolen alien tech powered up, and crews who had trained in secret for 3 years moved to battle stations. There's something else you should see, Marcus said quietly, leading Helena to a secure terminal. We've been analyzing the pattern of Vespidian attacks. They're not just expanding their territory, they're hunting for something. He displayed a map showing resources unique to the attacked worlds. Every planet they've destroyed had significant deposits of this element. He pointed to a particular energy signature. Helena's eyes narrowed. And how much of that element do we have on Earth? More than any world they've attacked so far. We're sitting on the largest deposit in known space. They're not coming to conquer us, Helena realized. They're coming to destroy us, just like all the others. Her neural implant buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Earth's Unified Defense Command. Protocol Omega authorized. Weapons free. Helena straightened her uniform and addressed the command center. For 3 years, we've hidden in the shadows. We've watched their atrocities, learned their weaknesses, and prepared our response. Tomorrow, Ambassador Chen will announce our existence as a military power. The enemy expects to find a primitive species cowering behind obsolete technology. Instead, they'll find humanity's answer to genocide. Throughout the solar system, ship after ship detached from its hidden dock. The vessels looked wrong to alien eyes, combining sleek energy weapons with brutal kinetic kill vehicles, advanced shields with simple steel armor. They were ugly, inelegant, and utterly lethal. Begin deployment, Helena ordered. Operation Thunderbolt is now active. In synchronized precision, Earth's hidden fleet moved into position. Some ships cloaked immediately, becoming invisible to all known detection methods. Others powered up their hybrid weapon systems, ready to demonstrate why humanity's primitive approach to warfare had led to innovations the older species had never considered. As Helena watched her fleet take position, she remembered something her grandfather, a naval historian, used to say, "The most dangerous predator isn't the one that charges in roaring. It's the one that watches silently, learns your weaknesses, and strikes when you least expect it." Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn that humanity had been far from passive in their role as observers. They had been preparing for war with the methodical precision that had characterized every major human military advancement. The Vespidians thought they were approaching a primitive world. Instead, they were walking into humanity's killing ground. "Send word to all commands," Helena ordered. "The thunder rolls at dawn." The Galactic Council chamber had never been so crowded. Word had spread that the human observer was planning something unprecedented, drawing representatives from even the most distant sectors. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the center of the chamber, her blue diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the exotic attire around her. "Honorable representatives," she began, her voice steady. "For 3 years, humanity has watched this war unfold. We've witnessed the destruction of neutral worlds, the death of billions, and this council's failure to act." She paused, letting the translations echo through the chamber. Today, that changes. The massive holographic display behind her flickered to life, showing the solar system. Hidden markers began appearing throughout the display. Dozens, then hundreds of signals lighting up like stars being born. "Humanity rejects its observer status," Sarah declared. "As of this moment, we are declaring ourselves active participants in this conflict." Chaos erupted in the chamber. The Vespidian delegation rose in protest, their insectoid features contorting with rage. The Arcturian representatives whispered urgently among themselves. The council speaker slammed their ceremonial staff for order. "This is outrageous." The Vespidian ambassador chittered. "Observers cannot simply—" "Cannot what?" Sarah interrupted. "Cannot defend ourselves. Cannot protect others. Your fleet is already advancing toward Earth, Ambassador. Did you think we wouldn't notice?" The hologram shifted, showing the Vespidian battle fleet approaching human space. Then it showed something else. Hundreds of human ships decloaking around the fleet, ships that, by all Galactic Council regulations, shouldn't exist. "Impossible," someone whispered. "Their technology level was grossly underestimated," Sarah finished. "Deliberately so, by certain members of this council." She pressed a button on her datapad, and financial records began scrolling across the display. Records showing how some of you have profited from this war, how you've deliberately kept primitive species from advancing, while selling advanced weapons to both sides. Admiral Helena Torres' voice crackled through the chamber's communication system. "All ships in position, Ambassador, awaiting your command." Sarah's eyes locked with the Vespidian ambassador's compound ones. "Withdraw your fleet immediately, or witness humanity's first contribution to this war." The Vespidian ambassador laughed, a harsh, clicking sound. You dare threaten the Dominion? Our technology is centuries beyond your primitive. Execute Thunderbolt, Sarah said quietly. The hologram exploded with activity. Human ships, combining stolen alien tech with Earth's innovations, engaged the Vespidian fleet. Hybrid shields flickered as they absorbed energy weapons, while magnetically accelerated kinetic rounds. Simple slugs of metal moving at relativistic speeds tore through the most advanced Vespidian defenses. The chamber watched in stunned silence as humanity's primitive fleet demonstrated warfare techniques the galaxy had forgotten. Ships appeared and disappeared, using cloaking technology in ways its original designers never imagined. Vessels trapped in containment fields found their own shields turned against them. We've spent 3 years preparing, Sarah continued, her voice carrying over the sounds of battle. Learning your technologies, adapting them, improving them. You called us primitive because we still use physical weapons alongside energy beams, because we think differently than you. The hologram showed the Vespidian fleet in retreat, leaving behind disabled ships and scattered debris, not destroyed, deliberately disabled, a message even the most warlike species couldn't ignore. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy, Sarah declared. We don't want your territories or your resources. What we want is very simple. This war ends. The corruption ends. The profiteering ends. She turned slowly, meeting the eyes of every council member. You've forgotten what it means to fight for something beyond profit or power. You've forgotten what it means to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We haven't. The chamber erupted again, but differently now. Smaller nations, other primitive species, began standing in support. They had watched too, learned too, prepared too. Earth is extending an offer of alliance, Sarah announced. Not to the great powers who have forgotten their purpose, but to every world that has suffered under their neglect. Every species that has been deemed too primitive to have a voice. Admiral Torres' voice returned. All Vespidian vessels have retreated from human space. Ambassador, our fleet stands ready. Sarah smiled, not the diplomatic smile she'd worn for 3 years, but something fiercer. The galaxy thought humanity needed to learn from its elders. Instead, we're here to teach a lesson that Earth learned centuries ago. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the most advanced weapons. It's the one with the most to lose, the most to protect, and the determination to do whatever it takes. She looked up at the council speaker. Humanity's observation period is over. The real question is, what will the galaxy learn from us? Throughout the chamber, alliances were already shifting. The age of passive observation was over. The time for action had begun. 3 months after humanity's dramatic entrance into the Galactic War, Admiral Helena Torres stood on the bridge of the HFY Prometheus, watching her fleet execute maneuvers that were rewriting the rules of space warfare. The massive viewscreen showed dozens of human vessels moving in patterns that made no sense to traditional alien doctrine, until they did, devastatingly. Guerrilla Squadron reports success on Operation Wraith, her tactical officer reported. 3 Vespidian supply convoys disabled without casualties. Refugee extraction complete. Helena nodded, studying the tactical display. Humanity's intervention had evolved far beyond that first shocking demonstration. While the Vespidians and Arcturians fought with rigid battle lines and overwhelming force, human ships struck from nowhere, disappeared, and reappeared where least expected. Show me the Argus field, she commanded. The display shifted to a vast sector of space where thousands of microscopic sensors, based on old Earth sonar buoys, created an invisible web of surveillance. It had taken the combined efforts of 3 primitive species working with human engineers to create a detection system that the major powers couldn't counter. Admiral, her communications officer called out. Priority message from Ambassador Chen. Sarah's face appeared on a private screen. She looked tired but satisfied. The coalition is growing, Helena. 6 more species have joined our alliance. They're calling it the Guardian Compact. And the Council? In chaos. Our expose of their corruption has sparked internal investigations. Half the senior members have been forced to step down. But that's not why I'm calling. Sarah's expression grew serious. We've discovered something. Something that explains why the Vespidians were so desperate to reach Earth. The ambassador transmitted a file that made Helena's blood run cold. Deep scans of Earth had revealed more than just the mysterious element the Vespidians coveted. Buried beneath the Antarctic ice, deeper than any human excavation had ever reached, lay the ruins of something ancient. Something that predated every known civilization in the galaxy. It's some kind of weapon, Sarah explained. Or at least, that's what both sides believe. The Vespidians want to control it. The Arcturians want to destroy it. Neither of them knows we found it first. Helena studied the scans. How long until we can access it? Dr. Wang's team estimates 2 weeks. But Helena, there's more. We found similar sites on other worlds, always on planets of species the Council deemed primitive, always carefully hidden from detection. The implications were staggering. The Council hadn't restricted technological advancement out of arrogance. They'd done it to prevent certain species from discovering what lay beneath their feet. Ma'am, her tactical officer interrupted. Large-scale Vespidian fleet movement detected. They're launching a major offensive against the Arcturian core worlds. Helena watched the massive enemy fleet formations appear on her display. The old her would have seen this as a disaster, the Vespidians potentially gaining a decisive advantage. But 3 months of warfare had taught her to think differently. Contact Guardian, Compact Command, she ordered. The Vespidians just made a critical mistake. They committed their main fleet, leaving their supply lines exposed. She smiled grimly. Time to show them another human tradition, the counterattack. What followed was a masterpiece of coordinated warfare. While the Vespidian fleet engaged the Arcturians in a massive frontal assault, human-led Guardian compact forces struck their weakened territories, not to conquer or destroy, but to liberate. Every freed world brought more allies, more resources, more innovative combinations of technologies that the major powers had never imagined combining. But the true victory wasn't military. On each liberated world, human medical ships were the first to land. Earth's doctors treated the injured without asking their species or allegiance. Human engineers helped rebuild critical infrastructure. Trust was built not through force of arms, but through demonstration of humanity's other great strength, its capacity for compassion. Status report from Beta Squadron, her tactical officer announced. 3 more refugee convoys safely evacuated. Civilian casualties, 0. Helena nodded in satisfaction. The galaxy was learning that humans didn't just fight differently. They won differently. Victory wasn't measured in territory conquered or enemies destroyed, but in lives saved and allies gained. Her thoughts were interrupted by urgent beeping from her neural implant. Dr. Wang's preliminary analysis of the Antarctic site had found something unexpected. The ancient weapon wasn't a weapon at all. It was something far more significant. Something that could change not just the war, but the very nature of galactic civilization. Send word to all commands, Helena ordered. Operation Revelation begins at dawn. It's time to show the galaxy why Earth was chosen to guard this secret, and why being primitive might just be the greatest advantage of all. The pieces were falling into place. The final phase of humanity's intervention was about to begin. And with it, a revelation that would shake the foundations of every civilization in known space. In the depths beneath Antarctica's ice, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before an artifact that rewrote everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the cosmos. The massive chamber, untouched for millions of years, hummed with energy that defied current scientific understanding. Dr. Wang's team had confirmed what the initial scan suggested. This wasn't a weapon. It was an archive. Play the message again, she instructed. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a being unlike any known species. Its message, finally decoded, was both simple and earth-shattering. To our children, We chose you because you never stopped questioning. Above the ice, the final battle of the Galactic War was unfolding. The combined Vespidian and Arcturian fleets had converged on Earth, each believing they could seize the supposed superweapon. Instead, they found Admiral Helena Taurus and the Guardian Compact fleet waiting. All ships execute Pattern Omega. Helena commanded from the Prometheus's bridge. The human-led fleet moved with practiced precision, implementing tactics that had evolved over months of warfare. Ships phased in and out of normal space, using humanity's hybrid technology to strike from impossible angles. But this time, something was different. As the battle raged, the ancient facility beneath the ice began to awaken. Ambassador, Dr. Wong called out urgently. The archive, it's responding to the conflict above. I think it's been waiting for this moment. Sarah watched in awe as the chamber's walls came alive with information. The truth revealed itself in cascading waves of data. Earth hadn't been chosen as a primitive backwater to be overlooked. It had been chosen as a sanctuary, a place to preserve knowledge that the galaxy's eldest civilizations had proven themselves unworthy of holding. Send this to every ship in range, she ordered. Both sides need to see this. In space, the battle froze as every vessel's communication systems were overridden. The archive's message played for all. The story of an ancient race that had watched countless civilizations rise and fall, each destroying themselves with their own advancement. They had searched for species that might break this cycle, finally finding them among the worlds deemed primitive by their successors. We hid our knowledge, the message continued, not in the most advanced worlds, but in those that maintained their wonder. Those who remembered that power without wisdom destroys itself. Those who never lost their ability to look at the stars and ask why. The fighting stopped as the implications became clear. The Council's corruption, the endless wars, the suppression of primitive species, all of it had been observed, tested, measured against criteria established millions of years ago. This isn't a test of military might, Sarah broadcast to all ships. It's a test of wisdom, one that the galaxy's advanced civilizations have been failing for centuries. Admiral Torres seized the moment. To all vessels, power down weapons. The war ends here, not with victory or defeat, but with understanding. The archive continued its revelation. On dozens of primitive worlds, similar facilities began to activate. Each held pieces of knowledge deliberately scattered to prevent any one power from controlling it all. Knowledge that could only be accessed through cooperation, through the combination of different perspectives and technologies. The Ancient Ones didn't choose humanity because we were special, Sarah declared to the now silent fleets. They chose us, and others like us, because we never stopped being students. While the advanced species fought over fragments of stolen technology, we looked at their achievements and asked, how can we make this better? In the following days, the galaxy changed. The corrupt council collapsed, replaced by a new organization that gave equal voice to all species. The Guardian Compact expanded, not as a military alliance, but as a coalition of learners and innovators. The archive's knowledge was shared gradually, carefully, with oversight from those who had proven they understood its true value. Humanity's role evolved too. No longer observers or warriors, they became teachers, showing the galaxy the strength that comes from combining wisdom with wonder. Their primitive approaches to problems sparked a renaissance of innovation as species learned to question their assumptions about what was possible. 1 year after the battle that never finished, Ambassador Chen stood again in the Galactic Council chamber, now renamed the Galactic Concordat. The chamber had been redesigned, no longer arranging species by their supposed advancement, but mixing them together to encourage exchange of ideas. We spent so long looking up at the stars, she addressed the assembled representatives, wondering if we were alone, if we were special, if we mattered. The answer was both simpler and more profound than we imagined. We mattered not because we were powerful, but because we never stopped believing we had more to learn. Admiral Torres, standing beside her, added, "The ancient ones didn't hide their knowledge to keep it from us. They hid it to see who would seek it with wisdom rather than greed, to find those who would use it not for power, but for progress. The galaxy had been rewritten not by force of arms, but by force of revelation. Humanity's greatest contribution hadn't been their hybrid technology or innovative tactics, but their persistent reminder that true advancement comes not from having all the answers, but from never stopping to ask questions." As the new era dawned, ships of every species set out together, not to conquer or control, but to explore. The stars held more mysteries, more archives, more chances to prove that wisdom and wonder could coexist. And on Earth, beneath the ice, the ancient archive hummed with approval, its purpose finally fulfilled. The primitive observers had become the teachers, showing the galaxy that the greatest power isn't the ability to destroy or dominate, but the courage to admit how much you still have to learn.